I agree with Donald Trump on one thing, to make America great again. So now you ask yourself, when was America great? America was great when the indigenous people that were here long before Christopher Columbus landed on this continent by mistake. That's when America was great. Yeah. And so I agree with him on that. Make it great again, and you can take your colonialism back to where you came from. And return it to the indigenous people.
Yes.
And you will see America thrive again, because Mother Nature will come back and regenerate and replenish.
Hey, Skinny. People have been asking the question, when was America great? And why do they want to go back to that time period? I think I figured out the time period that they're trying to get us to go back to. Now, in my opinion, that would be roughly 1870 to about 1930. If you read P2025, you know, that master plan that they created, you will notice that majority, if not all of the departments that are mentioned in that did not exist during that time frame. You didn't have Social Security, you didn't have Medicare, you didn't have Medicaid, you did not have the Department of Education, you did not have a number of other programs that exist today. They have terminated high-level ranking women in the various departments within the federal government. During that time period, there were not many women in the workplace. And those that were definitely not high-ranking in their chain of command. Also, during that time frame, women did not have the right to vote.
Family, when was America great? This is a question that a lot of Americans are asking online, and it's something that I notice is trending on TikTok. When was America last great? You know, when Donald Trump was campaigning for him to be the president of the United States for the second term, he was using the analogy of he wants to make America great again. And Americans are asking themselves, when was America actually great? You know, when was the last time they remember that America was great to them? And these questions is just answered differently by different races. How the question would be answered by a white folk is different from a black folk, because we all have different histories. How it would be answered by a Latina is also different. You know, for a black folk, he'll think about the racism they've been subjected over the years. They'll think about the slavery period. They'll think about the Jim Crow, you know. And different people would answer this question differently. And family, I compiled a series of video of people answering when was America great. So guys, I want you to watch this series of videos. Once they're done, we will get back and do a critical analysis about the same. Let's watch this together, family.
No, I want an answer to that, because that's your slogan, make America great again. When was America great for you?
Okay. That is, American great is our freedom.
Freedom. Your freedom? Or all of our freedom?
Everybody's freedom.
Everybody's freedom. So yes. When was America great for all of us?
When our forefathers.
Forefathers. The ones that own people?
No.
Which ones?
You have to look at the history. You got to look at the history.
I am. I'm asking you. Which for? George Washington owned 300 people and went after a few of them for running away. They signed a constitution that made black people, enslaved black people, 3/5 of a human being. I don't think it was great then, if you're asking me, a black woman.
Right, but you have to understand
what
our history to get where we are today. What's happening is our media.
No, Jackie, because again, if you can't walk me through the greatness of America and how you want to restore it to a place where it was great before, your whole argument falls apart. So walk me through when America was great.
Okay, so America has been great forever. Now the problem is the people.
For who though? No, I can't wait, because you need to answer the question. And again, you call up, and I'm glad, Mississippi, I love the state. You're a Trump supporter, which, you know, I want to get into, you know, the reasons behind that, but it's all around this freedom thing and this greatness thing. And we need to settle on what that looks like for you and for me, and then for all of us, because if it's not going to be great for all of us, then it's not great for any of us, Jackie.
Well, my question is, why don't you think it's great? Because I've grown up, and
Okay,
my
don't
mother was a
no.
single parent.
No. You answer my question first, please.
Okay, so
Can
you're asking me when it was great. It's been great. It has been great.
It has been great. So slavery was great. Trail of Tears was great. The Chinese Exclusion Act, great. The Japanese internment, great. That was great. Jim Crow was great. Back of the bus, colors only water fountains. Let me see. Brown versus Board of Ed. Oh, the throwing of tomatoes at little girls. The bombing of a church with little girls in it. That was great. The hanging of hundreds and thousands of black people, burning down towns in the 1920s. The draft riots in New York because of people having to fight for freedom. Freedom is liberty is everything, right? Liberty is everything. That was a great America to you?
Okay.
Okay, you can't just say, okay, was it great or not?
It's people that make it bad.
People make it bad. Yes, racist people, horrible people, genocidal people make it bad. You're absolutely right.
It's all about people.
From 1948 to 1973, for 25 years, the U.S. economy was so amazing that you could conceivably get a job. I mean a regular job. I don't mean an amazing job. Just a job. And the pay would be so high and the benefits so amazing that you could not only afford to buy a house and feed your family, you might be able to send your kids to school, to college, and you might be able to retire really well. That was the only time, in fact, in human history where a person could work and make wealth. Because if you look at the middle class today in the United States, they don't make wealth. They barely get by. But for 25 years, people were prospering. And what they realized, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If people aren't fretting about food, if they're not worried about shelter, if they're not in constant fear that the economic situation they're in will collapse, they have mind space to start to ask bigger and better questions like, wait a minute, what about civil liberties? What about civil rights? What about human rights? And the next thing you know, by 1954, 6 years into this explosive economy, we're in the middle of a revolution.
Make America great again. It's been his mantra since he's run in 2015. What does that mean? What is again? When was America great?
Well, that question right there says everything that I need to know about you, that you don't really think America was ever great at any time. I think America was great. The spirit, the whole purpose for America was about the American spirit, coming here and making something for yourself and having the opportunity to do that for yourself, to work hard. And that's what America is all about. So the people that hate America will always say, well, when was it ever great? It's just not a very good attitude to have, in my opinion.
And when was that lost in your estimation?
I think a lot of it was lost when the Federal Reserve took over the money system. We need to go back to a gold and silver-backed system where currency it counts.
Make America great again. What does that mean to you? What's the again?
To me, the again means that we have somewhere safe where we can have those freedoms that we are so lucky to enjoy. There are so many people throughout the world that do not have what we have, and it is a blessing. That's why we have people that want to be here, and we will fully encompass all of that greatness again.
When did we last have it, if it's again?
I feel like we did have that when President Trump was in office. I feel like we can work with what he built on in the first presidency and make it even better.
When he was running in 2016, it was before he'd even been president, but he was still saying make it great again. Again from when?
That is a good question. I would say if I could guess, it would be, and I think that they're very politically lined up, would be maybe with JFK. And when he was president and what we embodied with some optimism and freedoms that we didn't have before and trying to find that.
When was America last great?
4 years ago, or 3 years ago.
Well, he was saying it before he got there. He was saying make it great again. So he didn't think. What did that message mean to you then?
I felt President Reagan was an excellent president too.
And nobody between Reagan and Trump.
I am not a Democrat, so.
Well, you had George Bush there, and you had George Bush's son.
He was Right, yeah, but I still liked President Reagan.
Well, we finally did it. We made it here. We found out when America was great so that we can do that again. And according to Donald Trump in a recent interview, he says America was strongest from 1870 to 1913 because our economy was tariff-based, and he's so excited about it. That's what he's doing to us. But here's a fun fact about that period of history is that let's remind ourselves that the middle class does not naturally happen on its own. It needs to be curated and invented and coerced. Did we have a middle class in 1903? No. We're talking single-digit percentage points of the country. We're what? What is he doing to this shit? Come on. I can't believe it.
Hey, Skinny. People have been asking a question. When was America great? And why do they want to go back to that time period? I think I figured out the time period that they're trying to get us to go back to. Now, in my opinion, that would be roughly 1870 to about 1930. If you read P2025, that master plan that they created, you will notice that majority, if not all of the departments that are mentioned in that did not exist during that time frame. You didn't have Social Security, you didn't have Medicare, you didn't have Medicaid, you did not have the Department of Education, you did not have a number of other programs that exist today. They have terminated high-level ranking women in the various departments within the federal government. During that time period, there were not many women in the workplace, and those that were definitely not high-ranking in their chain of command. Also, during that time frame, women did not have the right to vote. Hence where that bill that says that your birth certificate, the name on your birth certificate has to match your current name, would marginalize pretty much all married women. And in some cases, divorced women too, who did not change their name back. But the real thing that stick out during that time period is that you had Henry Ford, J.D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, J.P. Morgan Chase, Charles Schwab. All those individuals were living during that time frame, and all those individuals were millionaires. See where I'm going with this? In a similar regard, you have the Musketeer, the Cheeto-in-Chief, and a number of these other tech billionaires all at the top. And they're controlling the narrative, similar to how J.D. Rockefeller had control over the education system. And that's why you don't learn about finance in school. What the History Channel has taught me, though, is that those individuals were so greedy for all the money and all the control that ultimately it led to the Great Depression. I think we're on that course of history repeating itself, but let me know what you think in the comments.
I agree with Donald Trump on one thing: to make America great again. So now you ask yourself, when was America great? America was great when the indigenous people that were here long before Christopher Columbus landed on this continent by mistake. That's when America was great. Yeah. And so I agree with him on that. Make it great again, and you can take your colonialism back to where you came from. And return it to the indigenous people.
Yes.
And you will see America thrive again, because Mother Nature will come back and regenerate and replenish.
When we passed the 17th Amendment. And what's
so like back when like women couldn't vote?
Yeah, back up, but again, let's
like that
go back.
That's kind of your sweet spot right there?
Absolutely.
What year was America great?
When it was founded.
Except for the slavery stuff.
Except for the slavery stuff,
I think we were probably our strongest immediately post-World War II.
So around the 1950s?
Yeah, mid-40s, 50s.
I mean, I think the 50s was great other than, segregation and women's rights.
Look, we could sit here and paint negative faces of all times in America.
Correct.
Family, the question, when was America great, is inherently subjective and depends on the perspective of who's answering it. Different groups of people may point to different periods based on their values, in identity or experiences. Here are a few commonly cited time frames and how they are viewed. There is the post-World War II era, the late 1940s to 1960s. Why some see it as great? The economic boom, strong middle class, the global leadership, infrastructure development, e.g. highways and technological advances. And there is also critics to the same. Racial segregation at the time was a thing, limited civil rights for minorities and women, and Cold War fears. You know, to some people, it was a good timing. You know, to the others who are going through a lot of limited civil rights, it wasn't a good timing for them. Then there is the founding years, the founding era, the late 1700s. The revolutionary ideals of liberty, democracy, and independence. Then during the same time, there was slavery, exclusion of women and non-property owners from voting. You know, the genocide of Native Americans. So when was America great could be different from different angles, from different perspectives of different groups of people. And these are things that people are asking themselves right now again, because now Trump promised Americans that he'll make America great, you know, and now we are seeing how America is falling into shambles. There is a lot of problems right now in America. Babylon is falling. People are crying, you know. If this was Donald Trump making America great again, then there is a lot that is at stake. There is a lot that is not happening well. I went further to look at circumstances that black folks went through oppression, you know, in America, and I've just been wondering, when was it ever great for the black people? For people who look like me and you, when was it ever great for us? You know, black Americans have endured systemic violence, racism, and oppression across many centuries, but certain years stand out due to particularly brutal events, legal decisions, or cultural shifts. Here's a timeline of some of the most historical devastating years for black people in America. Family, when I look at these years as we break them down, I just would wonder, when was it ever great for the black people? When was it ever great for us? There is the slavery era, from 1619. The first enslaved Africans were brought to English colonies, that's Virginia, marking the beginning of centuries of racial slavery. In 1857, something happens. Drescott versus Sandford. The Supreme ruled that black people were not US citizens and had no rights. You know, they had no rights, the government must respect. They were ruled not to be Americans. Then in 1863 to 1865, the Civil War period was chaotic and deadly for many enslaved people. And though slavery ended in 1865, violence persisted. Then there's the Reconstruction period and the Jim Crow. In 1866, Memphis and New Orleans massacres, deadly white-led attacks on black communities shortly after the Civil War. Then in 1877, the end of the Reconstruction, federal troops withdrew from the South, leading to decades of Jim Crow segregation and disfranchisement. Then you have the racial terror and massacres. In 1919, the Red Summer, race riots erupted in over 30 cities. Hundreds of black people were murdered by white mobs. In 1921, the Tulsa Race Massacre, one of the worst incidences of racial violence in U.S. history. A prosperous black community, the Greenwood, was destroyed. 1955, Emmett Till was lynched in Mississippi. His brutal murder galvanized the civil rights movement. Then we have the civil rights era. 1963, Birmingham church bombing. 4 young black girls were killed in a racially motivated attack. In 1968, assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. sparked national grief, riots across the country. When was America great for black folks? When has it been great for people who look like me and you? People who have this skin. When was America great for us? Then we have the modern day injustices. In 1992, Rodney King verdict and LA riots. After officers were acquitted in King's brutal beating, massive unrest broke out. Then we have 2014. Before we actually go to 2014, 1999, February 6th, in New York, what happens? New York Police Department fires arms more than 40 times to a 23-year-old then, Amadou Diallo, a Ghanaian student, was shot in cold blood, going in the streets just looking for supper. When has the history of the US ever been great to the black man? Then 2014, Michael Brown killed in Ferguson sparked the Black Lives Matter movement. Family, these are just but little circumstances here and there. We are not accurate with most of these circumstances. Most of them are actually even not reported. In 2020, there is the greatest one now, the George Floyd, where George Floyd was murdered by police, which led to a global protest against racism and police brutality. George Floyd's murder was one of a kind. During that time, black people all over the world were so sad. In the midst of COVID-19, in the midst of COVID, when everyone, we were on our television screens, we are all on our phones. Work was not as usual. Everyone is indoors. Then now we see the news of George Floyd, saying he cannot breathe, being killed, man. That was a bad one. These years are only snapshots. The suffering, resistance, and survival of black Americans stretch far beyond isolated dates. Systemic racism continues in various forms: mass incarceration, health disparities, economic inequality, and more. Family, it's been crazy. And guys, I just want to ask the question once again. When was America ever great? Well, point out with ears. Let me know in the comment section down below. Kindly like this video so that it can be recommended to other YouTube users, and I'll be very, very grateful. Last but not least, we are currently on the road to 50,000 subscribers, and guys, we cannot do it without your support. Kindly share this video widely. The goal of the channel has always been to talk about black history, black empowerment, and to ensure that the black generation is woke. Thank you guys, and see you all in our next episode. Goodbye for now.